What is going on, everybody? Welcome to a Detroit Lions live stream. It is the 30th of August. It is roster cut down day. I hope that everybody can hear me. I was having a little bit of microphone issues, but it seems like everything is starting to work out. So, it's roster cut down day. The Lions have already made a few cuts on their board, and the Lions have already kind of started to change up this roster a little bit. And today I had a little bit of time between classes, and every single time I wrote a script for a video, it very, very quickly became outdated. So, what we're going to do instead is we are going to just do this live. We're just going to hang out. We're going to talk about the roster cuts when they come up. We're going to talk about who gets cut, why they got cut, and we're just going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to monitor Twitter for about an hour or so, and we are going to just talk about the releases and the roster moves being made by the Detroit Lions. I'm sure we'll touch on the quarterback situation. I'm sure we'll touch on backups. We'll touch on players that have already been cut from other teams, and so on and so forth. But as everybody kind of gets in, as everybody kind of finds their way to this last minute stream, I do want to pull up technically my script from this morning, as this was the script that I was going to use for my initial roster predictions. Now, it is a little bit hard to see, and for whatever reason, it is, there we go. We can zoom in. This was originally going to be today's video, and it was going to be, the roster prediction, who I thought was going to get cut, who was going to be on the practice squad, etc. And as of right now, we have had, I believe, 10 releases by the Detroit Lions, meaning they have about 20 more to go before 4 p.m. And I'm assuming there are going to be a few that are made on this stream. So we're going to talk about everybody, and then we're going to talk about a couple of the other players the Lions could even look to bring in today. So the Lions are now at 68 players and need to be at 53. So they have, 15 cuts left to make? So, but starting off, I had Jared Goff. Obviously, he's the quarterback 1. David Blau is the quarterback 2. I kind of thought that David Blau, a lot of people think David Blau has played very poorly. I don't think David has played that bad. I really don't think he's a horrible quarterback. He hasn't yet been cut, but I've seen things saying that he will likely be cut before the end of the day. If they roll with David Blau, I'm okay with it. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he's fine for this year as the backup. Not necessarily long term, right? But this year, if it's David Blau, it's David Blau. DeAndre Swift, another guy that is, pretty obvious for the roster. Jamal Williams, Craig Reynolds, pretty easy. I was debating between the 3 running backs here. Eventually, I just decided to go with Justin Jackson because I think he had the strongest of the preseason out of the 3. And then I kind of want to switch this one up, as I don't think Godwin Igwebuike will make the roster. He was the primary kick and punt return specialist a year ago, but his role just isn't really there anymore, right? He has the turnover issues. He has the fumbling problems. They really like Jamar Jefferson. I think Jefferson will make it as the fit, and I think Godwin will be moved to the practice squad. Jason Kabinda, pretty obvious, is going to be the fullback. I think TJ, Brock Wright, and James Mitchell will be the 3 tight ends. These are the 3 I had going into the day. I didn't have the Lions keeping Devin Funchess because I just didn't think he kind of fit what they were looking for. There is a possibility that he returns along with a couple other guys to the practice squad, but I didn't see Devin Funchess making the roster over these 3 because TJ had to make it. You spent a 5th-round pick on James Mitchell, and Brock Wright, I thought, played way too well last year not to make the active roster. Now, going into week 1, I think wide receivers will be DJ Chark, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Josh Reynolds, the obvious 3. And then Maurice Alexander, because of his kick and punt return ability, Khalif Raymond, and then Quintez Cephas. I admittedly did have Tom Kennedy on here yesterday, but he was cut yesterday, so obviously that could not have happened. The first 3 are obvious. Quintez Cephas, I think, is kind of a lock at this point. Same thing with Khalif Raymond. And I think Maurice Alexander is going to be just a good, solid kick and punt returner until Jameson Williams returns. And then I think you're going to see him moved out for Williams. Now, offensive line, again, kind of a chalk it up to who you thought. Taylor Decker, Jonah Jackson, Frank Ragnow, Halapaloe, Vaitai, as well as Penny Sewell will be your starting five. And I think Tommy Kramer, Logan Stenberg, and Evan Brown will be the interior three to back up that offensive line. And I don't think there's a huge upgrade or downgrade between the backup tackles, but I think Dan Skipper has been the major backup tackle so far throughout the preseason, so I think he will make it. I think Easy has a little bit of a way to go. Interior defensive tackle, Michael Brockers, of course, will be a defensive tackle who will make the team. Ali McNeil and Levi will also make the team. I think Isaiah Buggs and Demetrius Taylor will both be on the roster. Demetrius Taylor is a guy that, I think he's just too valuable to cut. He was getting a few reps with the ones against the Steelers, and I think he's a very good player. He's very disruptive. He, didn't get any major sacks or tackles for loss, but he was disruptive, did penetrate the pocket, and did get some pressures. So I think he will kind of stick around. I think if they cut him, he will be picked up somewhere off of waiver wire, and I don't think they're going to want to lose him. So I think Demetrius Taylor will make the active roster. Again, pass rusher, edge rusher, kind of similar. Aiden Hutchinson, Charles Harris, Austin Bryant, John Kaminsky, Julian Okwara. I think those are the 5 edge rushers you go into the season with. And then, of course, Romeo Okwara, Josh Pascal will return after the pup list, after week 4, when they are eligible to return. And then you will have to shuffle around some guys there. But I think those will be your week 1 edge rushers. Going from linebacker, again, admittedly, I had Jared Davis on here because I thought he was a good enough player in the preseason to keep, but Rodrigo is going to make it. Derek Barnes is going to make it. Anzalone. I think James Houston will make the active roster as your 4, and then I think they will either keep Josh Woods or Jared Davis on the practice squad just in case if neither of them get picked up so that they can, bring up those extra 2 guys for the 55 on Sunday. Cornerback, Amani Oruwariye, Jeff Okuda, Mike Hughes, AJ Parker, Will Harris, Chase Lucas. AJ Parker did get cut. This was the big surprise to me was AJ Parker is no longer a Detroit Lion. I would assume that means that they are either incredibly high on Will Harris or Chase Lucas in the slot. I'm not entirely sure if that means they're going to maybe carry an extra linebacker, but I feel like they are going to be a little bit thin at corner unless they plan to address that at some point. And then the safety and the special teams is going to be, of course, Tracy Walker, Deshaun Elliott, Ifeatu, and Kirby Joseph. They just cut CJ Moore this morning. And then Jack Fox, Riley Patterson, and Scott Daly are the other official players that have been released. Now, looking at today's releases, as we can pull this over, we have seen quite a few players leave the team, right? Tim Boyle, that's not close enough. You guys can't see that. We're going to start at the bottom. Tim Boyle, I think, was their best roster move so far. He was not a very good quarterback last year, nor was he a very good quarterback in the preseason this year. I think it was the right move to get rid of him. He just wasn't a good quarterback, wasn't accurate. Not that David's much better, but David is certainly better than David Blau. Mark Gilbert, again, just not a whole lot of room at cornerback. I'm kind of surprised that 35, I'm trying to think of his name. The guy that gave up 2 back-to-back game-winning touchdowns or game-tying touchdowns potentially, Cedric Boswell, I'm a little surprised he hasn't been released yet, and Savion Smith was. I thought Savion Smith was a little bit of a dark horse guy to maybe make the roster, but I think he will also return on the practice squad. Tom Kennedy, again, a little surprised. Jared Davis, for me, was a surprise. Khalil Pimpleton, Devin Funchess, and Kendall Lamb were not. And then today, we had 4 more. I guess technically 3 more, as CJ Moore was officially released. Jerry Jacobs was moved to the PUP list. I think that they were very much trying to keep him on the active roster for week 1, but it does seem unrealistic for him to return. So I do believe that obviously now it's official. He will officially start on the PUP list and won't play until minimally week 4. AJ Parker, unfortunately, was cut. I think he will get a chance somewhere else in the NFL. Stepped up big last year for the Detroit Lions, had some big plays, had some down plays, didn't really play all that well in the preseason. And, as we saw, this is kind of the Mike Ford of this season, right? Where you're like, okay, this is a guy, he's been here for a while, he's started games, he's made an impact on the team, he's pretty clearly going to make the roster, and then he doesn't make the roster. And then Anthony Pittman, again, kind of a chalk up pick at linebacker for the Detroit Lions to release. I would assume this either means that James Houston, the fourth, or Josh Woods will end up making the final roster, because at this point they're going to be a little low on linebacker. But Anthony Pittman was the most recent linebacker to officially get released. All right. Getting on to some of the other signings, right? Backup quarterback has been a huge deal for a little while now. And there have been quite a few backup quarterbacks that have been released. You know, you're talking about Kellen Mond from Minnesota. I don't remember if Tyler Huntley was released, but I saw somebody make a tweet about him, about the Lions potentially reaching out to him. So if he is a free agent, I think that would be a good option if they wanted to add Tyler Huntley. Trace McSorley, a player that played for the Baltimore Ravens and Arizona Cardinals, ended up getting released. So I thought he could potentially be a good backup quarterback. He, you know, there's some options out there. I don't think like Trace McSorley would be too expensive, but I don't want the Lions to go out and spend top tier money on a backup, because I just don't think that's where they are yet. But if they can go out and they can get, you know, a Tyler Huntley for whatever they had Tim Boyle for $2 million, if they can go out and get Trace McSorley for $1 million, I think that, you know, upgrading the backup quarterback is a position that they can do. I really, really hope they don't sacrifice draft assets, like trading away picks to bring in a backup, because I don't think it is that important of a position to this point. Going through, we have, you know, some more cuts. What's your reaction to Tom Kennedy? Surprised, but not surprised at the same time. You know, he's been a preseason standout for multiple years at this point, right? We knew what Tom Kennedy was. He's the preseason Randy Moss. But at the end of the day, he doesn't provide special teams ability. He is a good wide receiver, but he's not going to play. Best case scenario was he was beating out Khalif Raymond for the 6 or the 7 spot, right? Realistically, we loved the story. We all wanted Tom Kennedy to make the roster, but realistically, he probably shouldn't have made the roster, right? It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you could have, you know, Maurice Alexander or Khalif Raymond who can produce in multiple ways on your team versus Tom Kennedy, who's fairly one-dimensional as a player. Hard Knocks comes out tonight. That is an episode that I think will be very hard to watch. The next two should be pretty interesting indeed. Let's see. Jalen Reagor's trade market is heating up, apparently. I really hope the Detroit Lions do not make a move for him. Not that I think that they will. They have, I think, their wide receiver core pretty shored up. So I think that is going to work out in, hopefully, their favor. The Eagles did make a very big trade earlier, though, in the case of, I believe, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who was obviously a safety for the New Orleans Saints, got traded away for, what was it, a 5th and a 6th? I would have made that if I was Dan Campbell or if I was Brad Holmes, but I don't think anybody knew that Chauncey was on the roster. So, or that he was, you know, on the trade block. So that I think was a little bit of a surprise. I think a very good move by the Eagles, a team that we will play very early. Hopefully Chauncey Gardner-Johnson doesn't do his homework and is not 100% ready to play in week 1 against the Lions. But that's just another guy that is going to make it much harder for Detroit to win in week 1. Let's see. What time does the deadline hit for knowing the 53? We should know by 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock is the official deadline for the roster cuts to be official. So 4 o'clock, we will know. It's 4 o'clock. Yeah. So that is where we are at right now. I don't know. I don't think there's been any more major releases. We'll keep going through. We'll see what's going on. A couple of guys that I think are potential, you know, just guys that I've seen be released that could potentially join the Detroit Lions roster. Philip Lindsay was released by the Colts. I know that he's not, you know, a number 1 guy. We don't need a number 1 guy, but for somebody who's never fumbled in his career, a former 1,000-yard rusher, kind of, on that track of, hey, had a good year, is coming off a couple bad years, kind of fits, that Charles Harris mantra, kind of fits that, he's down a little bit. The Lions could be that opportunity for him to break out. I think that if you want to bring in Phillip Lindsay as your running back 4, or maybe even compete for your running back 3, potentially that could be an option if he's, willing to come in for a little bit cheap. Your running back is already kind of a tough decision, but it is it's a decision that I think it's a position that I think can still be upgraded. I think we pick up a linebacker and safety on waivers. I wouldn't be surprised if we got a linebacker. I don't think safety is going to be there just because I think the safety position is pretty deep where it is, especially if Yatu can come back pretty healthy. I just don't think there's a whole lot of room for more than 4 safeties, at least not until, one of them goes down with injury. But linebacker, I wouldn't be surprised. I'd say the big positions I would think that the Lions would target would be backup quarterback at this point. It seems to be pretty close to confirmed that the Detroit Lions are looking for a new backup quarterback. But I mean, running back's pretty secure unless you want to add, again, like a depth player. Linebacker, I think, is possible if you want to look at more of like an outside role. Devon Kennard was a player that was recently cut by the Arizona Cardinals. If he wants to come back to Detroit for cheap, I don't think that he will, just because I don't think we need that role anymore. Right? We don't really need a jack linebacker role, but I think if he wants to come back for cheap, I was a big fan of Devon Kennard when he was here. I thought he did really good back-to-back 7-sack seasons. Cooper Rush was released by the Cowboys. Interesting move right there. Potential quarterback. I don't need to look at that. And what else is going on in the NFL? Let's see. But yeah, I think that linebacker and backup quarterback is where they should look to maybe improve. And I think Devon Kennard's a decent option if you're looking at linebacker. Hard pass on Cap. Cap. I don't know if you're talking about Kaepernick. I saw something about that this morning. Absolutely. If they make a move for Kaepernick, that would not be a very smart move, in my opinion. Let's see. There's got to be a move here pretty soon. We'll beat the Eagles in week 1. That's pretty sketchy. I really don't think they're going to go after the safety market. They have obviously Tracy Walker, and they have Jalen Elliott. They have Ifeatu Melifonwu. They have Kirby Joseph. They're 4 deep, and I think their 4 is pretty solid depth-wise. They might not have like a top 5 or top 5 safety, but I think they're pretty deep. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to add a young guy to the practice squad. I feel like I'm saying that a lot. But I wouldn't be surprised if they try to add a young guy to the practice squad, somebody with some range, somebody with some ball hawking ability in case, in case Deshaun Elliott gets injured or something like that. Maybe you move Bobby Price back to safety and stash him away on the practice squad. The only problem, right, is there's only 53 spots. So you can only have so many members in each core in each room. And, you have probably 8 to 9 offensive linemen. You have 8 to 9 to maybe even 10 defensive linemen. You have 4 to 5 linebackers. You have 6 to 7 cornerbacks. It adds up very, very quickly. And I just don't think that going deeper than 4 safeties is beneficial, because I don't think you're going to find somebody better or that's going to compete with those 4 guys. But that's my personal opinion. I'll probably end up eating my words in like 20 minutes. Let's see. Chuck Clark is on the trade block. Again, if I were the Lions, I wouldn't give up draft assets right now. I think the Lions are in a good enough spot to compete with the roster they have right now. With the guys that are on the roster right now, I think they are a 6 to 7 win football team. Maybe a little bit more if everything goes right. If they get a couple, lucky bounces here and there, I think they could max out as an 8-win team. But I don't think trading for Chuck Clark is, the best option, because I just don't think it's within the Brad Holmes wheelhouse right now. I don't think the Lions are in a position to make an aggressive move to trade for a big name player or a player that's going to ask for a bit of money, a veteran that's on the older side of his career. I just don't think it's in the playing cards for the Lions this year. The Vikings 2021 class is looking pretty bad. What was their 2020? I mean, I know Kellen Mond was obviously a part of that. Vikings 2021 draft class. Let's see. That didn't even take me to the right spot. Let's see. PFR. I know PFR is going to have it. 2021, or even better yet, we'll just search Vikings. And we will go to drafts. So they had Christian Darrisaw, who I think is still on the roster. I'm pretty sure Christian Darrisaw is still playing. Kellen Mond, not looking too hot. I mean, obviously not on the roster anymore. Ches Surratt, I'm not aware something happened. Same thing with Wyatt Davis. I mean, it's really just that quarterback, which, I mean, obviously is the biggest part, but we'll see what happens to the Vikings. They taken all day to release these quarterbacks. Hey, Tim Boyle was cut, and I'm happy about it. If David's David, David can play. That's totally okay with me. All we got to know is Tim Boyle is gone, and Tim Boyle is not my backup quarterback. He's not even on my roster anymore, and that makes me very happy. I think they are an 8-dub team right now. I'm at 7. I'm at 7 victories personally. I think if you look at Washington Commanders, Seattle Seahawks, Chicago twice, both New York teams, and then Jacksonville, that's 7 games right there that I think the Lions maybe shouldn't be favored in, but that should be very, very close. That should be, either it's a very close point spread or, they're less than 1 score in difference. Right. I think those are all teams that the Lions can and should feel confident about walking in and walking out with a victory. Now, you're not going to win all of those games. You're probably going to lose 2 or 3 of those 7. Ideally, you don't, but realistically, you'll probably lose 3 of those 7 games if you're the Lions. So you have to upset 1 or 2 of the other 10, and that puts you at 6 to 7 wins. And that's kind of where I'm at, right? I think they're a team that can beat the lower teams in the NFL, and I think they're a team that can compete with the better teams in the NFL, but not quite get over that hump of being more than mediocre at this point, because I just don't think they have the star power to do it. I think, later in the season, I think they're going to start off a little slow and kind of finish hot like they did last year, because I think their depth is going to outclass a lot of teams going into like the double-digit weeks and the later weeks of the season. But I think they're lacking the star power right now to be a playoff team. I think all of the depth is there, and they're waiting for that guy to break out. They're waiting for Aiden Hutchinson to become a top 10 pass rusher. They're waiting for Jameson Williams to be, a top 15 receiver, a top 15 weapon in the NFL. They're waiting for, they've got the offensive line now. They're waiting for these superstar playmakers to arrive. And once those guys get here, I think the Lions will take another big jump into being legit playoff contenders. But they do need those playmakers, and they need those superstars. Just saying, if Goff goes down, we are toast. If Goff goes down, regardless of who the backup quarterback is, we're kind of toast. I really, really don't think it matters. Hector was waived, Bruce Hector. Let us see. Yep, Lions are waiving Bruce Hector via Tom Pelissero. Again, not a super surprising one. Bruce Hector has kind of been lurking around the Detroit Lions for a couple of years now, and he's been a decent preseason guy, but he's just not really – he's not I don't want to say it to be like a mean thing, but he realistically, I don't think he had a chance to make the roster. I think that, again, potential practice squad guy if he doesn't get picked up off of waivers, but I didn't ever see him being a real option to make the roster. Does that save Campbell though? I don't think Campbell's even close to the hot seat yet. I think Dan Campbell, as long as the Lions win 5 to 6 games this year, I think that he will be pretty safe. If the Lions if the Lions go 3 wins again with Jared Goff being the starting quarterback, then I think you start to question it. But as of right now, I don't see it. I think the coaching staff's good enough. I think the talent's good enough to win 6 to 7 games, maybe even 8 in a good year. I don't see him being anywhere near the hot seat at the end of the season. Well, I think we have a cornerback, linebacker, quarterback. Oh, need. Corner, I don't think we need a cornerback. The secondary was very meh. Like, that's pretty much the only way to say it. Amani didn't look great in the preseason, but like the catch he gave up versus Pittsburgh was not his fault. He had good coverage. It was just a really, really well thrown ball. He gave up, I think, 2 catches in the preseason, one to Drake London and one to Deontay Johnson. If you're giving up 2 catches and, if you're giving up 1 catch a game, it is what it is. I am not concerned about Amani. Jeff Okudah looked pretty good throughout the preseason, so I'm not really worried there. Either Mike Hughes or Chase Lucas will probably man the slot until Jerry Jacobs gets back. And then I think Jerry Jacobs will make his return. I think we'll start in the slot. I think he's just kind of that. I think he fits the slot really well, right? He's a little bit undersized, but he can hit, he can tackle, he can move. He is a guy that I think is pretty versatile and is going to be willing to play the slot. And I think the way he plays fits the slot game a lot better. A linebacker, again, I think linebacker is something you look to address in the draft this year. Maybe if there's a big guy that, becomes a free agent or gets waived, then maybe, but I wouldn't give up assets to go get a linebacker. And then quarterback, same thing. It's Jared Goff or not. Like, Jared Goff is going to dictate whether this team wins or loses the amount of games that they do. If Jared Goff gets hurt, it doesn't matter who the backup quarterback is. Trace McSorley, Tyler Huntley, Mason Rudolph, Gardner Minshew, they're not going to the year is not going to go very well regardless. This is not the year to worry about a backup quarterback. That's what I was saying yesterday, right? If there's a really cheap option out there, if you reach out to Tyler Huntley and it's like $2 million or $1.5 million or whatever you were paying Tim Boyle, sure. If it's Gardner Minshew, who you'd have to give up an asset for, probably a 5th or 6th round pick, plus pay him $5 to $6 million, no, thank you. I think Godwin and Jamar will be cut. I think Jackson is in. I think Jackson's in as well. I'm just a little worried about his carrying issues. This team is not ready. 3 wins, 5 wins, not going to happen. Yeah, I think they're a little bit better than 5 wins. Like I said, I'm right at that 7 mark. That's where I've been for a couple weeks now. Okudah looked better. Okudah looked really good in the preseason. He looked really, really good. Yeah, I think we get those extra plays to win those games. We lost a lot of luck. That's true. A lot of our games last year, I wouldn't say we're luck, but it's one of those things where it's like, okay, could Justin Tucker hit that 66-yard field goal a second time? Like, if he made that kick 10 times, how many times is he really going to hit that kick? Right? If the Lions hold the Minnesota Vikings to a 53-yard game-winning field goal every single time, how often is that kicker going to make a 53-yard game-winning field goal as time expires? It's, things like that where it's not necessarily luck. Like, you can give credit to the other team for doing what they did, but how many times are they going to hit these game-winning field goals with a lot of pressure? You're going to miss those field goals sometimes. Sometimes it goes your way. Sometimes it doesn't. Right? That's the difference between 3-13-1 and 5-12-1? 5-12-1 looks a lot better. 5-11-1 looks a lot better than 3-13-1. Even if we did, so what? It is not the year to worry about. Next year, yeah, that's exactly what I've been saying, right? Cheap option? Sure. Don't go out and spend assets on a backup quarterback. We are good on the edge. I'll say that. We are very, very good in the trenches. Like, the Lions might have the deepest trench play in the NFL. And obviously they don't have like a Myles Garrett or an Aaron Donald or a TJ Watt. They are 5 to 6 deep everywhere. Like, their edge rotation is 6 deep. Their interior defensive line rotation is 6 to 7 deep if you want to include Demetrius Taylor. Their offensive line is top top 3 in the NFL, and they're not number 3. And then you look at the backups, Evan Brown would probably start on 5 to 7 NFL teams across the league. The other two, right, Tommy Kramer, Logan Stenberg, probably wouldn't start, but if they had to step in, I'm not too concerned that the level of play is going to drop. We have, I think, the deepest offensive line room and the deepest defensive line, including interior and edge, in the NFL. Now, I don't think it's the highest ceiling talent-wise, right? I don't think there's a guy that's going to get 20 sacks and break a record, but I think they are the deepest. What about our biggest needs right now? Again, I don't think we have a ton of needs. Linebacker is a huge need, but it's more of a need that I'd look to address next year in the draft. Quarterback long-term is a need, but as of right now, it is what it is. At this point, you're not going to add any major playmakers, right? This is not the time in the preseason where you're going to add a superstar. This is not the time of the season where you're going to all of a sudden find this gem that's going to save your franchise, right? It's roster cut down day. We know who we have. We might add a couple depth pieces, but there's no starters coming our way. We know the Lions starters. We know who they're going to be. It's going to be Jared Goff, DeAndre Swift, DJ Chark, Josh Reynolds, St. Brown, Hawkinson, the line. The defensive line, edge rushers are going to be Hutch and Harris. Interior is going to be a rotation of probably Michael Brockers and Aleem McNeil and Isaiah Buggs. Linebacker is going to be Rodrigo, Anzalone, and Barnes. And the secondary is going to be Amani Oruwariye, Jeff Okudah, probably Mike Hughes in the slot, or Will Harris. And then the safeties will be Tracy Walker and Jalen Elliott. I keep saying Jalen Elliott. And Deshaun Elliott. Those are the starters. We're not picking up any other starters. They're just not going to happen. Starting level players are not going to get cut at this point. So depth is potentially something there. Tackle depth, if somebody falls, I still think Abini Aziz, although I think he will probably be on the practice squad, I think does have the physical tools to develop into something very good. But potentially tackle depth. PFF liked what they saw from Okudah. I liked what I saw from Okudah. I thought Okudah looked really, really good. You want to be good enough that the games aren't that close, though so your record isn't so variable. In the NFL, all the games are close. I think the average margin of victory in the NFL last year was one score. I don't remember the exact number, but it was within one score. There's no such thing as blowing teams out in the NFL. There are blowout games, but they happen very rarely. Well, I mean, let's go take a look at the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills 2021 schedule. Probably the Super Bowl favorites this year, right? They started with Pittsburgh. It was a 6-point game. They had, they did blow some teams out, but the Titans was a 3-point game. The Jaguars was a 3-point game. They had some big wins. They had some blowouts. The Patriots was a 4-point game. The Buccaneers was a 7-point game, a 6-point game even. Right? There were some blowouts in there, and there were some huge wins, but there was also a lot of very close games, and there is no such thing as just blowing out a team every single week. It doesn't happen. The average margin of victory in the NFL is less than 7 points every single year. So you do sometimes need that luck to go your way. And ideally, yeah, you can say, okay, well, if we were up by 14, sure. If we scored on every single drive and didn't give up a point all year, we'd also win the Super Bowl. It's not realistic, right? It's the NFL. Everybody's good. Everybody's going to make it close. And sometimes you're just going to need that luck. And sometimes it's going to go your way. And if you're the Lions, very rarely does it go your way. I don't know. I think Levi might be in trouble. Here's my thing with Levi. I'm worried about Levi Onwuzurike. I'm worried that he is not healthy. I'm worried that he is going to continue to be the next Deshaun Hand. And that does worry me. I'm not going to make an official statement or judgment on Levi Onwuzurike to this point. I think that I will wait till the end of year 2. And if Levi can contribute significantly in year 2, I think that it's too early to worry. But if Levi doesn't play this year, if Levi spends most of the year on injured reserve, I think that he is going to be in trouble. And I think we will be at a position where we'll be talking about Brad Holmes' first miss in the NFL draft. And they happen. They happen. I don't think it's going to take away from the fact that he is a good drafter, but I think we are kind of at the point where we might have to start looking at Levi that way. We are deep at receiver too. We are very deep at wide receiver, especially when we get healthy, especially when Jameson comes back. Do you think Mike Hughes is starting week 1? I don't know. I don't know if he will. I believe he did start against the Pittsburgh Steelers, which leads me to say yes. But I also think Will Harris will be fighting for that spot. Very deep at wide receiver. I agree. Romeo might be getting cut soon. Such a disappointment. Romeo's not getting cut. Romeo is fine. I get it. He's been injured. He is out of the, he's injured. He hasn't played in over a year. I get it. Romeo was very good when he was playing last season. And he hasn't been suffering from all these setbacks. He hasn't been suffering from, a bunch of minor injuries. It was one major injury. And he won't be ready to come back in week 1 because he tore his Achilles in week 4. Right? Jeff Okudah is just returning to play, and he tore his Achilles a full month before Romeo Okwara. Romeo was a very good player. Romeo Okwara was producing with the Detroit Lions even last year when he was playing in the first 4 games. Romeo is a very good pass rusher. He's a very good football player. And if he can return to full health, if he can return to the form he was at before his Achilles injuries, which granted is not a guarantee, but it is more likely now than it has been in the past, Romeo will be absolutely fine, and he will slide in right next to Aiden Hutchinson. The Browns are officially at 53. That was quick. Okwara is on the way out if they don't produce. Julian, I think, is a little bit more in trouble. But like I just said, I think Romeo's fine. Levi is an interesting situation. Everybody misses. Yeah, everybody misses, but I don't think it takes away from what Brad Holmes did in that class. We have never had a draft like that in back-to-back. Yeah, hopefully we can start hitting on these second-round picks, though, because I'm a little concerned already. Sewell, Amon-Ra, McNeil have been awesome. Yeah, they've been phenomenal. I am on Twitter. You can go follow me on Twitter at AnthonyWriter5. It's in the link of the YouTube description. So, yeah. Julian is out of here, and Romeo is next if he don't come back dominating. Like I said, Romeo was very good. If Romeo returns to the way that he was before the injury, he will be fine. He will be a very good duo with Aiden Hutchinson. If he can't, then I think we have to move on. And Charles Harris is not as good as Romeo was, but he's fine. And we can get another edge rusher maybe this year in the draft. But yeah, I think Julian is in a little bit of trouble. I think Romeo has a little bit more of a leash, and I will wait to make an assumption on Romeo until he actually does return. Ed, Iffy, and Barnes might be a good contributors. Yeah, Barnes is going to start, and Iffy, I think, will contribute at safety at some point. I don't know if Harris Ball is out. He might be on his way out. I don't even understand with the Will Harris situation because he has yet to play well. Granted, he's played better. Right? I thought last year was a better year for Will Harris. But Will Harris is not a good football player. And I hate to say it because he was a third-round pick, and I think that his energy, I think that personality-wise, work ethic-wise, I think he should be a good football player. But he's not. He doesn't play the game very well, and it hurts, and it kind of sucks to see because Will Harris genuinely is a player that I want to root for, but it's really, really hard. I think he was talking about Charles Harris. I think Charles Harris is fine. He just got a brand new 2-year deal. I think if he does exactly what he did last year, he'll be very set to go. We need to hold on to Amon-Ra and Williams. They are some of the best receivers in the NFL. Great pick. You're welcome. I'll take full responsibility for that pick because I called Brad Holmes and personally made it. Not really, but I like to think that I willed the pick into existence because I was really, really hoping for St. Brown the day before the draft. But yeah, I think even if Charles Harris does well, I think Romeo's still fine. I think they will just go to a third or a 3-guy rotation to keep everybody fresh, and I think they will still be fine, right? Because Aiden Hutchinson slid inside multiple times already, so you can run a package with Romeo, then Hutch, then Aleem, and Charles Harris on the other side, or you can put Romeo inside. There's a lot of different ways you can utilize all three at the same time and throughout the game. So I really don't think they'd be in trouble. If anything, I think it would kick Romeo Okwara out or Julian Okwara out before they kick a Romeo out. What do you think about we go for Carson Strong and release Blau, then go for a linebacker? Carson Strong concerns me because of the knee injuries, right? He was super talented. He's super, super talented. Has a great arm. The knee injury really scares me because I think if he was healthy enough to play in the NFL, he would have been drafted. And, I know that I'm a big fan of, Brett Coleman and EJ Snyder, who do the Bootleg Football podcast. And when they were talking about in the draft, they said, if he gets drafted, his knee is probably okay. If he doesn't get drafted, his knee is not okay. And he went undrafted and he got a shot with the Eagles and he didn't make the team because I think his knee is that badly injured. And I wouldn't want a backup quarterback who I wasn't positive could play a full game. I'm not sure if Carson Strong takes a hit, he'll survive in the NFL, to be quite honest. I'm not sure his knees will make it. So I would hold off on Carson Strong. But linebacker, if there's a good linebacker out there, I would be pretty curious. What is said is our number 3 overall pick just barely beat him out for a cornerback spot. Said, if you can accept Harris sucks, you have to admit Okudah sucks. Not really. Okudah has had injury concerns. Okudah has not lived up to expectations. Jeff Okudah has played pretty well, all things considered. Right, last year, even before the injury, Jeff Okudah was playing pretty good in the 40 whatever snaps that he played. Rookie year, Jeff Okudah, I will fully give you, he did not play very well. Last year, Jeff Okudah played 48 snaps, played as an average cornerback in the NFL, and then got hurt. You can't tell me Jeff Okudah sucks and can't play football when we haven't seen Jeff Okudah play football. And the only things we have seen about him have been positive so far this year. So I will still hold out for Jeff Okudah. I think he will hopefully have a very good season. And if we come back in 6 months and Jeff Okudah is a very solid starting cornerback with 3 interceptions on the season and hasn't allowed a passing touchdown yet, then I will remember this moment. That was true, but Bryant is balling now. That is true. Bryant is very, very good. If Romeo comes back to full health, I will just put it this way. If Romeo Okwara comes back to how he was before, I think that they will keep 6. They will keep Romeo, Hutchinson, Harris, Bryant, Kaminsky, and I think they will keep a 6th, and I think that will be Julian Okwara, but I'm not positive that it will be Julian Okwara. But I think at the worst case scenario, not worst case, best case scenario, I guess, is Romeo Okwara comes back to as good as he was before, and we rock with 5 edge rushers being Romeo, Hutchinson, Harris, Kaminsky, and Austin Bryant. I think those will be the 5 because Austin Bryant has played extremely, extremely well so far. I am pretty fine with the rotation. Romeo can play inside and pass the rusher like Hutchinson. Carson will be a backup, not needed soon. Again, the health thing really, really concerns me. Romeo can't play inside. That's fine. Hutchinson can. So, you play Hutchinson and Romeo, and then you bring in Harris, you pull out Brockers, you put Aiden Hutchinson inside, and you go with the 4 across the line. There's a lot of different ways you can attack with those 3. Okudah barely beat out a safety for a cornerback spot. Who say he sucks? you're going off of a camp battle when I'm going off of tape from the preseason, and Jeff Okudah looked good in the preseason. If Romeo comes back pre-injury, I agree. Good. At least we agree on something. We read a QB. I'm assuming that is supposed to be need a backup QB. Any suggestions? Like I said, at this point, if it's David Blau, it's David Blau. If it's, the backup quarterback position is not something that should be this big of a deal at this point, because regardless of who's at the quarterback position right now, whether it's Jared Goff or David Blau or Kellen Mond or Gardner Minshew, the Lions win total is capped at probably 8, maybe 9. The Lions win total is capped at 8. This guy has them at 10. There's no way we're winning 10 games. I'm sorry. There's no way. There's no way we're winning 10 games. We're not that good yet. That's just where we are. I'm sorry to anybody that thinks otherwise. We are not winning 10 football games this year. We'll probably win 7. I'll be good with 7. We're not winning 10. We need a backup quarterback. We do, but not right now. What if Harris gets double-digit sacks? Then what? Then you still go with the 3. You still put Romeo, Hutchinson, and Harris on the field together and rotate them. It's a pretty simple answer. Play Hutch, Harris inside, and Okwara outside. It makes sense if he comes back from... Exactly. Just because one player plays well doesn't mean you can't have another good player. Money might be an issue. That might be true, but playing time for the next 2 years will not be an issue. Or, if it'll be a good issue to have. If they can improve any other spot by dropping an expensive player, they will. I agree. A lot of interior defensive line getting released and waived from other teams. Yeah, there's been quite a bit of... There's actually been some bigger name players than I thought that have been released today. We'll see if... Because I don't think there's been anybody else, but we'll refresh because I know... Yeah, Bruce Hector did get cut today, but he has been the most recent one as of right now. Yeah, I think there's some good depth out there. What happens to every team majority of them don't... What happens to every team majority of them don't have one? I am not quite sure what you mean. But if you're talking about edge rushers, then the Lions just happen to be very deep at the position. 6 to 7 wins. I agree. That will be a good job to me. I'm right at 7. So many interior defensive linemen. Does that mean Sue has no chance of getting a job? Probably not. Is Bugs our big? I think Bugs will make the team. I thought Bugs looked really good against the Steelers. I really did. I thought he looked good in every game that he's played so far. He's just kind of a wall. Like he just doesn't move. He doesn't really like rush the passer all that well. He doesn't really like penetrate the pocket all that well. But he doesn't move. Like against Atlanta, he was being double teamed, and I don't even think he took a step backwards. It was insane. He's just a mammoth of a human being. I think he will make it as I think him and Aleem will be our primary early down stoppers because they're more run stoppers. And then I think you're going to see like Hutchinson kick inside on third downs and longs and stuff like that. Bugs and Aleem are going to be kind of a nasty run stopping duo. I'm very excited to see those two play. Everybody, 120 minutes until the Detroit Lions are down to a 53-man roster. Now, I will not be here for 2 hours. I do have class to go to at some point today. So I won't be able to do until 4 o'clock, unfortunately. But we do have a little bit more time here. So hopefully not hopefully more players get cut, but hopefully we get a little more to talk about. Not going to be surprised if Hutch, Harris, and Bryant each end with 1 to 4 sacks each per game. 4 sacks in a game is kind of insane, but I wouldn't be surprised if the trio combines. If you're saying the trio combines for 1 to 3 a game, maybe. But if you're saying each of them gets 1 to 3, I think that might be a little bit of a stretch. I think as a trio, they'll be very good. I really do. I think as a trio of edge rushers, I think they will perform pretty highly. It's just wild how Holmes has drafted the last 2 years. And I wanted Dodds. Okay. Banks or Kaminsky? Banks. Or not Banks. Kaminsky is a good pass rusher. I like Kaminsky a lot. I don't even think Dodds would draft like this. Probably not. Probably not. I think Brad Holmes is pretty good at his job. Who do you pick to stay? At what positions? I have a lot of opinions about who will stay and who will go. But just let me know position. Let me know who you want, and I'll give you my opinion. Nobody knew this dude was even available. LOL. I don't know. Holmes is the best GM we've ever had. At this point, it would be hard to argue. Jared Davis left Detroit as their worst linebacker. Came back and replayed. Okay. Jared Davis was not that bad. Like, I get it. He's a first round pick and he, left and he didn't really play that well under Patricia. And I get the reasons why people hate on Jared Davis. Jared Davis did not play poorly in the preseason. Okay. Yes, he committed a very, very, very soft roughing the passer call that took away the lone interception in the preseason. Yes, things happen. Jared Davis did not play poorly. I thought Jared Davis would make this roster as the linebacker 4 or 5. I thought that his leadership was good. I thought that his attitude and energy was very good for the team. I thought he was an incredible culture fit. I don't think he would start, but I thought he would make the roster. And I won't be surprised when Jared Davis comes back as a practice squad member if he doesn't get picked up before that. He's not a bad linebacker. He's not elite. I'm not saying Jared Davis is an elite linebacker or anything like that. I don't think he's elite. I don't think he should start. I don't even necessarily think that he should get playing time. I think that his attitude, I think that his work ethic, and I think that his attitude is good for the culture. That is where I will leave it. I did not think he played bad. I don't in any means think that he's an elite linebacker. I never said that. I thought he played adequately in the preseason. Someone this morning said Paulo was officially cut, but I didn't see that anywhere. I am unsure. I haven't seen anything official on it, though. Well, who's worse? Josh Woods is worse. Anthony Pittman is absolutely not as good as Jared Davis. I will leave up to debate whether James Houston is a better linebacker than Jared Davis. But right now, if I were the Detroit Lions, which I'm not, I don't have the job for a reason, but my linebackers would be Rodrigo, Anzalone, Barnes. I think that the fourth linebacker should have been Jared Davis. I don't know who it'll be now. I thought it should have been Jared Davis as the linebacker 4, and then I would have kept James Houston as the linebacker 5. I would go for Jack Cohn or Kellen Mond for QB3, or you got any suggestions? Kellen Mond's a good option. Like, if Kellen Mond wants to come here for pretty cheap, get revenge on a division rival, the team that just cut him, it's possible. I think that Kellen Mond is a decent one. I'm a little concerned why the Vikings would choose to cut Kellen Mond after spending a third-round pick on him just last year, but that's just my PFF is not a reliable way to grade players, and I would be very curious to hear what you thought his missed assignments were. Jared Davis might come back. I think that is a very realistic possibility. I'll say this. I'd rather have him than Tavai. He is miles better than Tavai because neither one of them could really do a whole lot in the pass coverage, but at least Davis is fast enough to catch people. That's the bottom line. Davis is a good dude, but he can't play football. He can't cover, and he misses almost every tackle. Again, not really. He makes a lot of tackles. He's a very quick linebacker, a very aggressive linebacker. If nothing else, I thought he could have had a specialized role on special teams and as a blitzer. By no means did I want Jared Davis to start, but I thought at the very least he would be decent. Oh, Chris Board's on the roster too. I forgot about Chris Board. I'd rather have Krabs than okay. Woods can cover better than Davis. That's true, But I think Jared Davis is a better athlete. I think Jared Davis is a better blitzer. So it really depends on the linebacker that you want. Chris Board, actually, I take it back. I will take Chris Board over Jared Davis as my 4. Jared Davis would have been my 5. Board and Woods can cover. That's a fair thing. 5 linebackers for 2 spots. That's overkill. Well, the Lions are running a 4-3 defense, which means they will run 3 linebackers. Probably a Mike, a Sam, and a Will. If I had to guess, I'm not a coach, but if I had to guess, they'd run 3 because that's what a 4-3 genuinely calls for. And 5 linebackers is pretty typical for a lot of teams. Which player who we cut could be great practice squad additions? As far as the cuts I could see coming back to the practice squad, AJ Parker, I think, is always an option. I think he might get picked up off of waiver, but not entirely sure. If he doesn't, I could see him coming back if he's eligible. I'm not totally up to date on all of the nuances of how to run or how the practice squad works, but at this point, I'm just going to say if they are eligible, I think AJ Parker would be good. Khalil Pimpleton, Devin Funchess, Jared Davis, Tom Kennedy, and Savion Smith, I would love to have back. Anzalone, Rodrigo, Barnes, and Board are listed as the linebackers. Yep, that's 4. And I'm pretty sure James Houston will be as well. I think he's officially an edge rusher, but I think he's really a linebacker. I think how this regime wanted to use Davis as a pass rusher and downhill. That's what my thought was too, but that's just my opinion. Are you surprised Tom Kennedy got cut? Yes and no. Okay, they're running a 4-2-5. My bad. Still, 5 linebackers is pretty common. But yeah, their base is a 4-3. Thank you. They rarely run 3, only a few short yardage drills, according to Ridson. Okay, fair enough. I wasn't technically aware of that information, but I'm glad that I know that now. I still think 5 linebackers is fine. I still think it's a good number to have, but that's just, I guess, my opinion. No one runs a 4. Well, technically, everybody runs nickel defense anyway, because 70% of the NFL runs nickel all the time. So really, you're right. Really, there is no such thing as a 4-3 or a 3-4. Really, it's all nickel defense. But you still run, base defenses sometimes. Julian Okwara is listed as a linebacker. Yeah, they'll kind of move around. Julian is listed as a Sam linebacker because in the 4-3, he will line up on the line and stay. Yeah. Well, 5 linebackers is most likely. That's what I was thinking too. I don't know how many they carried last year. Lions 2021 depth chart. I'm pretty sure they had 5. I'm almost certain because Alex Anzalone was on the roster. Derek Barnes was on the roster. Jalen Reeves-Maybin was on the roster. I know Anthony Pittman and Josh Woods were on the roster, so that's 5 right there. You're not going to only carry 3. I think 5 is a very normal number. Thoughts on Abini Azee? Practice squad. I think he has the size. I think he has the tools. I think he is incredibly young and very much inexperienced. I will say practice squad. If he doesn't get picked up off of waivers. I actually like the 4-2-5 better than the 3-3-5. I agree. I like having more players on the line. I like having more edge rushers. I like having more defensive linemen, especially considering that the linebacking play is the weakest part of our defense right now. I actually really like the 4-2-5. I think it's a very good formation that will play to the Lions' strengths, being the pass rush and the secondary. I am 100% with you on that. Brickett just tweeted that Demetrius Taylor has officially made the roster. Oh, please let it be true. The Saints are releasing Ian Book. This is another quarterback I'd be interested in. Ian Book, I kind of liked. I liked as a Notre Dame fan, but I kind of like as a potential guy. I want to know what is going on. I don't care about Sauce. I care about Chauncey, but I don't care at this point. Evan McPherson made the 53. Good to know. I want to see. I need Demetrius Taylor. Anthony Pittman got cut, but I think we already knew that. I want to see Demetrius Taylor make this roster. I called this at rookie training camp. I called Pimpleton and Demetrius Taylor as roster makes. I missed on one. I'm very, very confident Demetrius Taylor will make this roster. I really hope he does. I really, really hope that Demetrius Taylor makes the final 53 because that guy can play football. We will keep an eye on that because I really hope that's true. I really, really hope that's true. Who? All right, let's see. Dave Brickett. I really hope you're not trolling me. I really hope you weren't like trying to get me to search up like a fake name or something. Oh, here we go. There's an undrafted rookie that turns heads every summer for the Lions. This year it was Demetrius Taylor. Demetrius Taylor has made the initial 53. I am extremely, extremely happy about that. All right, I think we're going to end the stream here. We just crossed the hour mark. We're going to end on some good news. I'm very happy about it. I'll answer these last couple questions, and then we will get out of here because I got classes to go to and things to be doing. So remember 2014, what did our defense run that year? A 4.25, and they were very dominant. I'm going to be totally honest. I don't remember the 2014 season because I was 11. But was I even 11? I don't know. I was very young. But if that's what they played, I'm happy to hear that. The running back room is way too packed. Who's going to be out? I think it's going to be Godwin Igwebuike. I really, really think it will be Godwin Igwebuike. Yep, I agree with that. So with that being said, everybody, that is all we have for you today. That is roster cut down day. We have about an hour and a half for the Lions to make, I think, 13 more roster moves. I will keep you updated on Twitter and probably maybe some of the YouTubes. But I will keep you updated on Twitter. I will kind of put out my opinions on every single player that gets cut at some point today between classes and homework. So with that being said, I look forward to the rest of the day. I look forward to any news that comes out about the Lions. If you guys see anything, send it over my way. If you want my opinion, just send me a DM on Instagram or on Twitter, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. But with all that being said, that is all I got for you guys today. Thank you all so much for joining this last-minute stream. I had a lot of fun, and we had quite a few people show up, so that was really cool. But I'm rambling at this point. So thank you all so much for watching, and until tomorrow, go Lions.